Good morning. It is Sunday. It is 10:30 a.m. 10:32. Nearly made it. And that means it's time for Sunday Club. This is, those are the first words I've spoken all day, and my throat is rough. Okay, what is Sunday Club? Sunday Club is a weekly, minus last week, Ruby on Rails live stream where each week we take a look at some Ruby on Rails, building an application together, and all of the things that go into building a Ruby on Rails app, including user interface design, which is what we have been doing lately. And we're going to do a bit more of that today. We're going to pick up where we left off. The only follow-up I have is that I tweeted that I would try and do a stream last week. I mentioned that it wasn't going to be on Sunday because it was a bank holiday here in the UK. So there was family stuff going on, good, lovely family, seeing family people stuff. So didn't do a stream. And I tried to do one on the Monday and, well, I say tried. I mean, I didn't try. I was going to, and then I didn't. But I wanted to, but I didn't. So I am back today. So we're back to our normal Sunday schedule. Although there's loads more bank holidays coming up. Who knows what's going on in the UK? They're giving us 2 days off soon because the Queen is something. Birthday? Centenary? Don't know. Something's happening. So I don't know what it is. Okay, great. So that's the only follow-up we have. Apologies for not streaming last week for those who I know hang their entire week on this routine. So let's dive into what we were doing. I made a list, which is lucky because I had completely forgotten. So these are the questions we were trying to answer with the user interface design we were doing. What does the booking flow look like? So just to add a bit more context, the Ruby on Rails application we are building is an events registration application. And specifically one that looks at how you might register groups of people into teams or just any other kind of group activity that you might want to have people register for, team sports or anything like that, and how this might happen. And we're in the process of, we did a very rough idea of what does the booking flow look like. So we've got a basic Ruby on Rails application built out. It has the idea of attendees and orders, which is like a booking. It had users, it has auth, it has an admin area. You can create events. There are event pages. They look really rough, which is why we're doing the user interface design. And that is, that's where we're up to basically. So I've got Sketch open. Let's kind of do a bit of a recap. This is all in that weird space between just being a rough sketch being something that's actually usable. And yeah, so this one I think was not what we wanted. Okay. So let's sort of zoom in here. So we had this idea of there would be an events page, whatever that means. And there was a bunch of information missing from this. We had a list somewhere of what that would need to be, but there's a bunch of stuff missing from this. But what all about it here is we had this book tickets button, and that this kind of used the information we already have in the application, which is when the name of the event, when it is. I don't even think do we have where it is. I don't even know what we store for that at the moment. We have a description and we have an image, an event image. That's sort of what we have in the application at the moment. So this would work based on what we have. I think we have location, can't remember. And then you would click book tickets and you would come through to this page. And this is where we start to branch off from what we actually have in the application. We don't have ticket types at the moment. We've built our kind of MVP version. So we would actually skip this and just go straight to another page that just started gathering information. So here we have ticket types. And so ticket types are something, there's a video in the YouTube archive. There's 3 or 4 where we go and look at competitor. I've got to start grouping all the ones in the archive just so I can link to things like this. But there's one where we went through loads of other event booking sites and how they handle things like this, with the idea of multiple ticket types, groups, and at what point you can sort of indicate that you're in a team, which is something we need to come back and ask about. And the idea of having groups that span across ticket types, or do you tie the groups to a ticket type, things like that. And that's just some example dummy user interface. We talked about the pros and cons of having like an increment, decrement button versus a select option or a drop down list, which all sort of made sense at the time. You then enter your details, and this was the idea of having a booking owner. This is like information that is not about any specific attendee or participant. This is just about the person making the booking. And then here, I think this is where we started to use our new set of components, where we had reusable sketch components that were form fields with labels, form fields with prompts, things like that. And I think we're going to want some different sizes, because I think these might be a bit small for our needs. Then we have, right, so this is a kind of, did we have two of these? Yeah, I can't quite remember what happened here. This is like the per attendee page, per attendee information page. And so the question I was trying to answer with this design, and this is just a very quick first run at it, is like, right, let's say you're entering information for multiple people, but you still want a persistent view of like, who have you added details for? Who have you not added details for? And getting a summary of all of those things. And I thought this could be a really cool little like turbo frames example, how on the left it could always be like the summary of where you're up to with your order, and on the right could be your per participant, per attendee form. And yeah, that was, and then these are divided by ticket type. So this is ticket type 1, ticket type 2. And then I started having a conversation. This might be something more fun to dive into today, of like, right, okay, well, what would it look like to then put those people in teams? And I didn't really get very far from that other than changing this header. But it was the idea of like, okay, so you've purchased a bunch of tickets. Let's say you've got 2 adult tickets and 2 children tickets. So are they in different groups? Does the ticket type define the group? Can you can the ticket purchaser create a new team and put all of those people on it? Do they have to use teams assigned by the event organizer? And those are all things that I've sort of bumped into when working on an application like this previously. So this is sort of just not done, because you could also have the idea of having like a little I don't know. I don't know. This one sort of we're skipping for now, I think, but maybe come back to it because that's one of the more interesting ones. Payment details was the idea of you leave we can kind of take this off here. You sort of leave the persistent summary, whatever this ends up looking like, of the order details, and then take payment details. That would just be a bunch of, I don't know, Stripe doodads. Then finally, the overall summary, a summary of the doodad of the Stripe payment details, and then confirm the order. So that is, oh, and then there is a confirmation page. Okay, cool. It just had the summary, but this idea of like a big congratulations graphic around the side. All right, cool. So alongside this, this all sort of came from the idea of, what was the next thing on the list? It needs to be on the event page, and what should it look like? Right, okay, so that was the first page on there. What should the desktop version look like? What do the desktop versions look like on mobile? Okay, cool. So all of this is sort of skipping over the question of what it looks like to actually enter the event details on the admin side. So this is like creating a new user we've got here. I think I'll post some of these up on Sketch as like a public page. So like you can put graphic design or like sketch design in, make it public somehow. All right, so what have we got for our events so far? That's under, so we don't have location, because not all events would have a location. Okay, cool. So now we're in the design, when we're designing this page, we're now in the sort of hypothetical, what would this page want or need? Do you quite like the idea of it having like breaking in and out of those? It's got some sort of column on it. Yeah, so do we have enough of an answer to this first question, considering what we can actually build? And the first question is, what does the booking flow look like? So at the moment, we know that it looks that we don't have ticket type, so that's moot. So it sort of only looks like this step. And then the confirmation, because that's all we've built. So maybe we do a version where this is more polished and then come to what else needs to be on the event page, because that feels like what would come next to build. This we could actually build out with what we have. So at the moment, just starting up a server on the other screen. Console over. Oh, I forgot we had this. Okay. So we have... so you have this. You have buy ticket, owner name, owner email, and event. And so owner name and owner email are this. They're these two fields here. And so we don't have any of this stuff. So this is all we really have. I think we just want a slightly larger version of those, and that's about it. And they look almost identical. I don't know what the problem is. All right, well we can start to tie our. So what does the event page have? Nothing. Okay, so we can sort of start to bridge the gap between Rails and Sketch, right? Like at the same time, we can build and design as we go. That's probably a bad idea, but I think it'd be more fun to do on the stream, because I think in reality what I would do if we weren't on the stream is just stay in Sketch for a long time and design stuff that we weren't going to build anytime soon. Do I want to do that? No, because I think we want to sort of get to the fun coding problems on the Rails side of things more than we care about the design. And we can do more specific design ones later. I don't think we're going to break anything if we don't. Really sure what's happening there, but okay, let's keep going. All right, let's say we're sort of happy with this notion of this top banner section. I mean, do we just do it? Should we just do the whole thing in code rather than staying in Sketch? I mean, that's sort of it's a coding stream, I guess. Just feel like it's always stung me in the past whenever I've done that, but I think it's sort of maybe that's more useful to actually see for people. Yeah, okay, let's give this a try. Let's build an event page. What have we got in Git at the moment? Probably some stuff we need to tidy up. Yeah, okay, so just sort of playing with primer in most places, I think. Okay, so it's mainly just playing with primer. Do we need any of this stuff to stick around? Like this one became a border box component, which I guess... What's this one? This is bringing in images and variables. All right, let's start just doing some work in progress commits, and we can sort of come back. Start sheets, primer, variables, start sheets. And variables. Where are we adding that into? That's in... Oh, are these two separate changes then? One's adding images, dot images. And variable. To override. So we recently called the primer CSS library and uses CSS override this additional place to do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know what else to put for that. Okay, so then we want to add in images. I think that's our Webpack thing, right? Yeah. In upcoming commits, we're going to be using images in our this commit adds a images directory. To source these images. All right, let's hopefully gets it done. Actually, don't really know if we want this. I actually can't remember if this looks any good or if this is a good idea or anything. If we sign in. And then it is... This is sort of what that looked like here. Yeah, can't see why not. That doesn't need to stay because we're going to need to come and change how all those work anyway. So that one can go. Use admin events. New event. I see. So that's that and that. That's the same part. That can go. Okay, so this can all go in as like work in progress. This is the first. I'm going to use what exploratory use of start the styling admin area. Excuse me. And that can all go. This is everything from here down can go, I think. This was just the homepage. It had a. I don't even know if we need that. Didn't we do something on that for Sketch? Yeah, we had some ideas here, so I don't even know if this needs to stay. That was pretty reproducible pretty quickly. We'll keep it in anyway, just to web content and formatting, just to at least keep it vaguely same. Okay, so we're gonna head back to our event page, which is all the way back somewhere here. So this is what we're starting from. All right. Can we can we at least administrate that event? Okay, so let's what's it called? New event. This one. Okay, great. So we can edit this. So we know that we can edit it. And we can put in a description. Grab some lorem from somewhere. Doesn't really matter what. We have a description. And we can let's put the same image in that we're actually using. So we can just do a quick. Can we quickly export that? Because I can't remember where I got it from. So export selected. Just put it on my desktop. We can just call it rectangle. That seems fine. Oh, is that just going to export just the white rectangle, or is that actually going to... Where's my desktop? Yes. Okay, great. Has it got the border on it? Okay, that's annoying. I didn't want that. Can we just quickly knock the border and the shadow off and just do the same export again? Rectangle, replace it. Yep, no border. Great. Okay. We can pop the border and the shadow back on. Great. So now we can, I think, just drag this on from the screen and plonk it on there. Save the event. Now if we go back to the event page. Okay, now we're on fire. Okay. Almost there. I mean, look at it. It's beautiful. All right. So let's turn this thing. All right, we're just gonna, I think we can all agree we're just gonna ignore the site header for now, right? Like that's just a whole other problem. So that'll be this thing here. Let's just defer that as a problem. What we can come back to. All right, so if I make this a little bit darker, we can sort of see it a bit more. But I don't want to keep it that. I'll make it quite dark so we can see it on the stream. But I don't want to keep it that dark. I just want to have it as a little offset. And the idea there is that I think that would be a cool option to have for desktop users when it gets really wide, of creating some sort of visual width at the start of at the top of the page, but also to give us opportunity for like using a big cover photo or something like that. And you can start plonking stuff in here, and just give us a bit of room for expansion that's really visually not against a white background, but also pretty easy to do for someone who for user generated content, like chuck a big picture up and we'll just blur it or something like that is like a common background or cover photo thing. Because it's really, when you're dealing with user generated content, if they don't know like if they don't have any good assets like high res photography, or it's the wrong aspect ratio or something like that, those banners always they don't work if you try and put any real content in them. So for example, they don't always know that the aspect ratio will change as the viewport shifts. They'll try and put some text on there that people need to read, and then obviously it's hidden behind something. So you generally want to try and like, that's why they're so often like blurred, or like you often see like a dark layer over the top, or something happens to indicate to the person uploading the photo, this isn't the photo. Like you need to put everything you need to put, especially for events. They're often like flyers, or they're the poster for the event is used as the image for the event on event registration software, because they might not have two images. They might just have the flyer, or they might not have a lot of time, which is more common, I think. All right, so I think essentially all we've really got here is a container at the top that's totally normal, and we just have a container here that secretly contains everything else, and we just drag one above the other, right? I've done layouts like this before, so that, like, and by that I just mean like this. Can I group all of this together? I group everything except the gray. If I lock the gray and the white, so, and again, I'm going to make that color really subtle. Let's grab everything else. Oh no, I do want the white. I want the white one to move to indicate my point. Back. That's hidden. I don't know what that is. Okay, this should do. Okay, so all we really want to do is have the page like that. So that's basically just a big blob, and then sort of just fake this to be margin whatever and bring it up, right? However much we want or need. Yeah. I can't see a reason to be any more clever with it than that. Because then even if you need to put stuff above here, it's only this margin top that you're adjusting. Because if this thing gets larger, you'll still only stay the same depth into it. And you're setting yourself some rules there, like you let's say that this doesn't exist, you're gonna need to fill that space up. Like if you set a specific value for how much this white rectangle overruns the kind of big banner area, you're gonna always have to be able to fill that space. But I don't think that's a problem. We'll fill that with all of our default stuff. I think even a blank event would have enough content to fill that. Let's give this a try. Okay, so we're going to do some coding. I thought we were going to do Sketch today, but just winging it. Just winging it. I love that we're still on a branch called RSpec helpers. As if the Git ID just dread to look at what the actual Git log is, but let's not worry about that. Okay, so we are in here. No. Yes. Yes. Just don't think we've done anything specific yet. No. Okay. Well, everything else is in components because is the page a component? Fuck, I don't know. Still wrapping my head around that. Okay, let's build it as a page and work our way backwards. I don't know. So obviously, like I'm creating a Sass folder called event layout, but the idea here is that there should very rarely be page specific layout, because ideally you would be using either components, and I don't know at what scale we're supposed to be using components yet, whether we're using whole page components or anything like that, or things from like your shared design system. So we sort of want to limit global CSS that needs to be there, and I know that we can then start going through and having Webpack and everything do fancy stuff what we need, but we're not going to worry about that on the stream right now. Like, we're going to sort of assume that by the time everything's been compressed, transpiled and minified and all of that stuff, I don't think we're going to generate a lot of CSS for like a simple app. So we're not going to worry anything about it, but we're just acknowledging that those are all things we need on a big production app. We would have conversations around and do all of that stuff, but we're sort of just not going to do that, which is fine. So we are going to say right, let's just give ourselves something visual to take a look at, shall we? So how tall did we make this thing? Oh, we locked it. No. Can I not even reference it when it's locked? How do I find it? This one. It is 380. I'm just going to give myself a grayish color like the one in Sketch, so we can use dark gray. Okay, fine. And okay, cool. So then we can do event show. All right, let's give ourselves something to look at. This thing can go away because it's useful, but not that useful right now. I can paste that in like a text. Okay, cool. Hello in the chat, Sasa. Nothing about front end. And you never have to think much. Oh, I don't know about the never have to think much line. I don't. Sorry about that. I can't see the Twitch chat in my multi-stream thing. Hang on a second. I really enjoyed working in Sass. I've actually oh, as a side note, I'd mentioned it on this stream before, but I worked on a site at the weekend, yeah, the other day, that used ES build, and I really enjoyed not having all of that Webpack stuff. So I do want to move to the new version of Rails in this kind of MVP world. So I'm just trying to log in to get the Twitch chat open, and kind of get Webpack gone, because it was way faster to see the changes from Sass, which was really helpful in terms of that. Sorry, I'm just logging in on the other screen. So I will do that. I want to kind of stick with the visual stuff for a little while. Hopefully I can. Sorry, just looking on the other screen because the chat doesn't seem to work on my thing. Oh, here we go. It's popped up on my thing now. Great. Yeah, so much faster. And I was using I wasn't using Rails. I was using Bridgetown, which I had used before with Webpack. And so it's a static site generator. So it's not actually doing anything dynamic when you look at the page, but so it's basically a static site generator, but you can put Webpack in, or now ES Build. Is that right? ES Build, is that the name? Right. Anyway, and so you can get access to all of your cool stuff that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to do with fancy build pipelines and all these cool things. And out the other end just comes a static site, but with your JavaScript and everything out the other end. The site itself doesn't have any interactivity. I mean, you can build with all of those like fancy, I can't remember what an example of one, like, does Firebase let you do this, where you basically have a static site and everything that you need to be like database and stuff is all third-party services, rather than like Rails. But it's I really was able to notice the difference even in generating static sites of having Webpack gone. And I was like, oh, whoa, if I can notice it here, because I was building a site that had like 3 pages or something, it was doing like nothing and it was still faster. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, got to get into it. They changed the way you set the method to a request. Change the way you set the method to a request in Rails 7. I haven't used any Rails 7 yet, so if there's stuff that I'm about to bump into. All right, we have a gray blob. Look at that. That's sass. That's how that's how it's working. All right. Okay. So we have a gray blob. So let's get our not even just a blob, a rectangle. A fancy, a formal blob. So let's. This is where I sort of had forgotten what we got out of Primer, but let's just keep going with this and see what we can then extract out to be generic. So let's say, let's just call this content. And I can't remember, I'm going to pick, I think, like an old Bootstrap width. I don't think there's any, from what I know about it, should we be using CSS grid to make a 1 grid page? I think there might be like performance benefits to that, but I can't remember what they are. So let's set the background. Yeah, so now we have to take into account, like, Primer has things like dark mode. So this would actually be like one of the variables, right? We have to go and find that link to some link root path method delete. It was something like that, but now you have to, oh, okay. Oh, wait. And so you have to change all of everywhere where you specify that in link to? Ooh. Okay, right. So they've changed the default to being turbo. Okay. Right. And so do your existing links still work, but just don't use turbo? Like, you don't have to change your existing ones? Because I remember having to do, like, when they first did that turbo links in there, was that like 5 or 6? Yeah, okay. But turbo's becoming like default, right? Like, that's the new out the box experience, is that you'll have turbo enabled, I think. I haven't used 7, so I think I just read that and might have totally misremembered it. All right, I'm going to try and just Google Primer primitives CSS. Okay. Colors. Right, okay, so this is where they came, but I don't think this is where they then... This is where they came from, but then within... God, I've forgotten all this. It was only a few weeks ago I was looking at this. Or index. Or index. Oh man. Yeah, I can't remember any of this. So these generate a bunch of variables. And so what I'm looking for is the I'm assuming there's a background color. There's so many. There's so many. I don't know if this is even coming through on the stream because the font is pretty small. Hang on, let me see if I can bump this up. Right, but they're not different. Right, so the variables don't have like dark mode, non-dark mode, stuff like that. These are just the variables that change as you put dark mode in, but you want to use them so that when you then have the mode change, everything changes. But you have to learn all of these. So like what's the page color called? And you have to go and hunt around for this. And that's fine because you're sort of leaning into, if you're leaning into the library and its functionality, that's sort of the job. I have no idea what it's called. So yeah, it is pre-installed. Also, Stimulus comes pre-installed. Yeah, okay. Which I'm kind of on board for because I think at this point, everyone who's heading in the React direction is I wonder how many people are really trying to use Stimulus and React or anything else, I guess, like Vue alongside each other. I genuinely have no idea, but I wonder if you're sort of either making a transition from one to the other, or you're so all in on one that there's really sort of no point in mixing one in. If you're all in on React, would you really start mixing in Stimulus controllers without making a migration towards it? Like BG color page header BG. There's so many. Color button. Okay, so this is going to be my problem. I think I don't know the library, and therefore I'm going to go and code a bunch of stuff, and then when I mean, yeah, fair enough. Like when you then go to switch, like if I put background white in this thing here, because I need a background color so that it sits on top of the image that's going to sit in the background, or the color cover section at the top. If I put white and then it switches to dark mode, that will still be white. So I don't want it to be white. I want it to be whatever the variable is that sets the page color in dark mode. But I can't spend the entire stream hunting around in Primer for what that is. So you have to learn the library, which is fine. Let's give this like a board. So this is one of the things I always end up doing. I don't really see a whole. Is there like a? I always just give things an outline so I can see where they are. Because if we chuck this on the page here, and it was just a white square, we wouldn't see it. So let's. Cool. So now we have, because there would be nothing there. So outline lets us see what we're working with. So we can then chuck, or can we then chuck everything in here? Cool. So then we have this kind of page forming, and then And here can we do... Oops. Cool. So that gives us roughly what we were looking for. This can go because we can see where it is now. This sort of gives us roughly what we were looking for in a really horrible way. But we jump back to Sketch and see what we're trying to accomplish here. Again, this will become... Can I just undo my way out of this because it was nice and light? So it can become nice and light and just gently phrase. That's probably a bit too light because we just want it to be indicative that it exists at all. It can kind of have a slight wash. All right, fine. But what we need it to do... Again, we need to find out what the variables are to give us things like gutters and stuff like that. So the other thing that we would potentially want to explore at this stage is whether... Do you get any like page layout performance benefits from using the CSS grid for this? By the way, I never did. Oh, yeah. Yes, you did. Yes, you're going to come. I did. It was a clone of Wolfenstein 3D from the 90s using C. It's about raycasting. Oh my god, because we posted did we post a link last time? Because that was a little while ago. Oh well, congratulations. How did it go? If there's anything you can post a link to, I'll pop it in the show description. Raycasting is lighting stuff, right? Like, can you hear my neighbor's dog? I gotta go close the window. My neighbor is putting out her laundry, and I think it's her daughter's dog. It goes crazy. All right, so we sort of have a rough layout here. And let's sort of see how we can... Yeah, so we don't need... Yeah, let's start to take a look at how we can make this. I think you have a couple of options because with layouts like this, you could actually keep this idea of this little white rectangle here all the way down to a mobile viewport. But if you do end up putting a color or an image or something up here or any content up here, you can also just have it sort of disappear, have everything wrap. Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, amazing. So going to share an article as soon as it's done. Yeah, that sounds impressive. Genuinely, like, well done. Like, that's a bigger challenge than I think I would than I would know how to tackle. I think I'm gonna not use the CSS Grid API, but only because I don't think I know it well enough. I think there might be benefits to using it here, and I think they might be layout performance based, but I think we would just end up going around in circles. So let's sort of give ourselves instead let's instead start sorting out the content for this thing. So we'll give ourselves, no, we did it purple, didn't we? And the flex finish will be a column. And that this, what I'm thinking here is that this we can have a little container that represents this and this. So the image on the left, and then this column on the right that has everything in it. And this one might actually be this whole section on the left. Does the image always go next to the description? No, probably this stuff would want to slot in underneath. We go 1, 2, 3. Maybe that actually is better for the grid. I think Flexbox might screw us over on trying to get that one under that one. That would still go 1, 2, 3. I'm not describing it very well, but because it's visual. But I want this on the left, this on the right. Then when you switch to mobile, I think we want this at the top, then this stuff, then this. So I think Flexbox would give us, this is position 1, position 2, and position 3. But when we wrap them, oh, I suppose we could just put this one as a line item right or something like that. Yeah, maybe it is fine. Let's give it a try. Give it a try. Oh, nice. So like a blog, like a blog site on Rails. For writing articles, check out Bridgetown. I mean, I know you're using Rails, but if you get a chance, I really enjoyed. I kind of enjoyed this the other day. It's not Rails, so you don't get all of the same stuff, but it has some fun ideas in it. Some of them I didn't really explore very much. I think you can do some really powerful stuff in there, but I only needed a page that just, like, I just needed some pages. But it was pretty fun. It was pretty fun. All right, let's keep going. So, layout header. So within here, we're going to have the image. It's going to go on the left. Maybe that doesn't need anything. And then on the right, we're going to have event. Again, I'm not suggesting all of these things. So this is like the BEM syntax where you have like this block and then element. I'm sort of abusing it at the moment because I think the event layout would be an abstraction away. Like it would actually be like you wouldn't call it event layout. You would want, page with cover photo, raised white rectangle or something. Like I'm just shorthanding a lot of stuff just to get it moving. So don't yell at me. But it's handy. It's a handy syntax to sort of say thing that is grouped together. So in this case, the event layout. Within that layout, this is the specific element that I care about, and it gives you that confidence that you're not polluting a CSS namespace somewhere else. Just by the wording. You're not trying to do anything fancy like CSS modules or anything like that. It's just I guess it's quick and dirty, but it kind of works. You're just using the CSS classes themselves, and you're kind of avoiding the cascade effects unless you specifically want them. And then it makes it. I find it makes it easier because I've used it for a while to refactor out. Like I know that this isn't a good thing because the layout shouldn't care about what's actually in the content. It's the details of the event, but it doesn't matter to me now because I know I can refactor it out later because everything I need will either be in the event layout namespace or I can move it. So that's now exists in there. So that and this can also come in here. Okay, so at this point we have, I guess I want a border on that to show. to show the individual ones inside as well, don't I? Let's just put these next to each other. So let's put the HTML on the left and the CSS on the right. Okay, so we want just going to put some lines around stuff so that we can see it. Different colored lines, so this can be green. And we can see in here, we should have a green box there. So if you notice, outline actually, if I zoom in on this, so outline isn't the same as can't scroll. So outline isn't the same as border because outline doesn't change the layout, whereas border does. So here on this green one, for example, here we change that to border. So you'll see what, I'm trying to zoom in a bit. Oh, I'm zooming on the wrong thing. You see what happens here. I don't know if you can see, but there's a green line and a purple line when we use border. But when we change to outline, the purple line runs on top of the green lines because it's so border changes the layout and expands it. So when I'm put lines on to see where things are, I use outline just so that it doesn't change the layout of the page. But the downside of that, or like an awareness, is that when you go for green and it meets the other element that also has an outline, the other one wins. So it can only show you one outline. I hope that makes some sense. All this time I've been, hey, you learn something new every day. I don't know if it's better. It's just different, I think. So like it can be really helpful if you like if where you're doing this a lot. Like if you sort of in a SAS, you might put like everything that starts with event layout, give it an outline. It can still not be easy to see, so I think border's helpful there. And then you can see it if you've got a heavily nested layout, you can see what border is doing, and you're like, okay, well, that's fine because all I'm really doing is visually trying to see where one thing is, and so this is just a helpful sort of hacky way to see it. So what we actually want then is at a certain point. Right, okay, so breakpoints. So we're now back into this idea of primer again and how much we're using the library. So let's get back to here, breakpoints. Okay, so let's say here. So I don't know if primer gives us any. Oh, here we go. It's just because it doesn't. Gives us any helpers to help. Okay, so the responsive variance variable is a mapping of breakpoints to class name variants. So it should be used like so. Each breakpoint variant. Consistency, please put the breakpoint, include breakpoint call directly inside there. Media queries are scoped from each breakpoint and upwards. So can I just use this like this? And we can just change. Oh, I have so any thoughts on the attack on Heroku? sadness, really, is my providing thought. I'm very lucky at the moment that I'm not doing a lot with Heroku at the moment. I use it just for some projects, but it's not running anything that I'm using day to day for like we don't use it at work, for example. And I don't use Twitter a huge amount, but I follow a few Rails people and kind of went on to take a look, and there are definitely people leaving because of it, like the clients looking to move to other providers. And it seems incredibly serious what's happened. So I can imagine being a Salesforce engineer is not hugely fun at the moment, working on Heroku. This scares us to the beginning of its downfall. I guess I wonder if the scale at which they operate sort of isn't that obvious to us from the outside. Like when I think of some of the size of some of the deals that they have with clients, like they're probably multi-year, I would assume hundreds of millions of pounds, things like that. Like they power some crazy stuff. I mean, they power like because it's not just Rails and all that stuff, is it? It's all the fancy stuff they do. So I think it's a bit like, I know they're not as big, but I wonder if it's sort of like when Amazon has an issue or anything like this and it's really severe, is everyone going to suddenly stop using AWS services? Maybe, but your entire engineering team has to re-engineer everything. So for like small and mid-size apps, I think moving away from a provider is easier. For large apps, it's what, a year to move away from a hosting provider and your entire engineering team. So you're so baked into those large deals. But maybe their relationship with small and medium-sized applications has changed. Yeah, which is not good. But and the upside, I guess, would be is that there does seem to be a good, healthy ecosystem of other providers out there doing stuff, which is good, and is appreciated as well. Because as long as there's money to be made, I think there always will be. But okay, so what I'm checking here is whether we can. The idea of transitioning the site away. Okay, so you can't do include breakpoint. I guess, but I mean, I'm just imagining. I think I'm just sort of imagining what it would be like for. You're a company with 50 engineers, 100 engineers, and you're using Heroku, and you've basically outsourced a bunch of your DevOps stuff to them. So you're using, maybe your devs are using Docker locally, maybe they're not. You don't have to use Heroku, I don't think. And so you've got to re-engineer at that point, you're probably using Heroku for your CI. You're probably using them for all deployments. They have a bunch of other tooling around that. Like maybe if you're using an external CI provider and external everything, you can switch more easily. Even so, like I don't know, maybe. I think Docker is like, it's at what point you're working with Docker. Like, are the engineers working with Docker locally? And yeah, I'm just trying to think of how. I guess I'm trying to think of like in my day job what it would look like for our entire engineering team to change the build pipelines and things like that. And there are engineers who focus on that stuff, so I guess if the head of engineering said do it, they would do it. But you want to do it? It makes me glad that I don't specialize in that area. Okay, so I don't think I can use the @include like that. Known mixin name breakpoint. Oh, okay. So maybe wait. Maybe it's just that I don't have the mixin. Maybe I can use it like that, but I don't have the mixin. So is it because I don't have the mixins? Do I have the, but I have the variables, right? So if I just did, what is it, like min width? Is there one on here? Was it just width MD? No, because these are all Sass variables. I don't think we're pulling those through. I want the CSS variables. Yeah, I think I'm only getting those when I'm actually in that world. Do I have a Sass variable? Okay, so let me see if this works. I should get an error here, I think. I think that variable doesn't exist. Yeah, undefined variable. Okay. So, and that's because we're not rebuilding primer. We're just using it as a pre-made thing, but they have a bunch of Sass variables. So can I use those in the, I need a working page. Yeah, send a link. Oh, damn it. I need to get this page working. Yeah, send a link. Look. Right, so at root, do I get like MD? No. Okay, so I don't have any of the. Okay, that's interesting. So how do I then use? I'm just grabbing that link. What? Oh, look, that's cool. Okay, so the green is what you can see. Oh, man. Oh, cool. Look at, yeah, that's so cool. That's amazing. I've never done anything in like that in like a 3D. I've never done anything in a 3D space. Ridiculous. Very cool. Very cool. All right, I'm going to put a link to that in the. Oh, do you want me to put a link to it in the things, or do you want me to leave it until it's? I should put a link to it. You're going to finish it. I'll just put it in the YouTube one. Hijack. I don't know hijack. And I'm going to copy. I'm going to Google that. What is that? Oh, it's a Jekyll thing. Okay, cool. Is that what that is? Oh, I see. Yeah, because yours was on the left. Okay, cool. Oh, and you said, wait, did you say this one you had to pay for? Boutique Jekyll theme, not just a Jekyll theme. Boutique. I'm going to start saying that the CSS I write is boutique as well. I want a pay rise. I'm not writing. If I was writing CSS, this would be fine, but I'm writing boutique CSS. All right, and I'm checking that link in the YouTube description. All right, cool. All right, right, it's there. All right, let's get this this thing working. Let's get this thing working. Come on. I'm gonna have this page laid out. Okay, so I'm not sure what to do with that. Right, let's just hand wave over that problem and just put in the number for now. That is something that I'm interested to come back to though, because this was one of the things about installing Primer in the first place. Like we're sort of using the view component library and the CSS library, but we're not actually getting the Sass build. It's already pre-built by the time we get it, and we're just importing the pre-rendered version, which is fine, but then we don't get the advantages of having things like the breakpoints and the variables and stuff like that. So maybe we just want to re-engineer how we're using Primer to actually do the Sass build in this build pipeline. Again, tying us even closer to the framework, but we're sort of in it at this point. All right, let's see if this vanilla CSS works. We just want to get, okay, cool. So does it change back? Yes, great. So hopefully we can see we have a really basic media query. It's a 1 pixel green outline. And as the screen gets wider, it becomes a 2 pixel orange outline just to show us that it was changing. But what we want to do there is actually switch this from this. Actually, we can do this. Just want to change the layout there. So this should have. Oh, and they're not happening. Oh, that should be right. I'm an idiot. Right, okay, cool. So why do we want that? It's so that on a mobile screen, this slots below there, but as we get a wider viewpoint, it comes up to meet it. And all right, so that should now go all the way across. And we want okay, great. So you can tell flex columns how to resize. This one is just keeping the image the same size and just having everything here collapse down to nothing. But so you would have this, which doesn't quite work. But you can tell them to resize that image, which is fine. And then it wraps around underneath. Let's turn that button into a button while we're here, because we had those fancy button components, which I thought looked pretty cool. And here they were. Oh man, I can't see any of this stuff. Close this one off. Must be. So this one you added in a CSS class because it was a button group. But I think on one of the others we were actually able to. Oh, okay, we just put in class button. But weren't we actually able to add a component as a button in somewhere? Isn't that what we want to be doing? Build view components. So the question in the chat: do you have any interest, knowledge of blockchain? Do you think it's a good idea to learn this technology, or do you see it as something that won't grow and will be overtaken by some new technology we can't even imagine? I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm not sure that anybody can. But I did have a conversation with someone recently about quite how many engineers the blockchain and cryptocurrency world is hoovering up. There are a lot of startups, I guess. Maybe they're more established companies hiring in that space, like a lot. And I don't know what they're doing. Half of them, I don't know necessarily what the outcome will be. For some of them, I was looking at their websites. I'm not sure that they know what it would be. And I don't know if it's a long-term thing, but it's a now thing. There are people being hired to work on that stuff at scale. Like there are a lot of people, and we were talking about like where people go and work and all of that fun stuff. But like, I think if I was gonna go and work on a product or service like that, I would sort of want to have an opinion on it. Like I would really want to think that it was going to grow and will be like the new big thing. So I can't answer it, but I'm not sure anyone can. But I think if you want to work in it, if you're, let's say you, I think for me it would be like if I go exploring in that world and build a couple of simple things, whatever I'm trying to get done, and I get any kind of bad vibes, I don't know how else to describe it, then I would think, okay, maybe not. But if I was like leaning in and being like, oh, this is super interesting or fun, or like there are things about this I love, then I think that would make me more want to go and spend more time in it. So that would be the way I would handle it. But I haven't really I haven't sort of seen anything that's particularly compelling about it for me personally. Like, why would I? Oh shit! This is because their button's not links, isn't it? Right, that's why we ended up doing it. Yes. Okay, fine. Is it button primary? Is it like Bootstrap? Yes. Okay, cool. Great. So as we then scale that up, it comes up to there. Okay, cool. So what we want is, well, let's do a little CSS challenge. Are you looking into this? Like, are you spending any time on it? The blockchain stuff? Like, I don't know if people showed me stuff. I never really see anything like. Yeah, and I don't really know what to point at to be like, that's cool and is built on this technology. I'm sure there's loads of stuff because, like I said, loads of people are getting jobs and building that stuff. But I don't know what they are. Are they all business stuff? Is it all like money and business stuff? And that's why I don't see it, because I don't do money and business stuff. I don't even know what those things are. I think it's extremely fun. Yeah, an open warfield. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know any of that crypto stuff. I mean, it's I guess it's like anything. It's the use of it rather than the technology, right? Like it's I'm guessing that you and a small group of friends could use that technology to do something that you trusted and believed in and things like that. But as soon as you enter the wider ecosystem, you're like, oh man, this stuff could get pretty dark. Yeah, I mean, if you're interested, I can't see any downside, I guess. Like, it would expose you to new things, I guess. I think it's having, because it's associated with that cryptocurrency world, and there does seem to be a lot of risk in things that I don't really understand. People are being asked to like put money into things and or there's a lot of like hyping up the value of certain digital goods. I'm not even sure they're all specifically currencies. I think some of the NFT stuff, like it's a fixed asset rather than a currency. It's like like a single unit rather than like a currency. Yeah, I don't even have the language around half of it, so I haven't delved into this. I haven't personally seen anything compelling, but I think if like you said, like you've got some friends that are into it, then why not? Like, and I think you might find pretty quickly whether you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting, or whether you're like, oh, I never, I never want to interact with this again. I think it would be worse if you well, not worse, but like interesting if you found the technology interesting, but didn't like how it was being used. You're like, oh, I really like, some like smart contracts or things like that. But then the jobs available are all for banks or whatever. Yeah, not worse, but like different. Right. Okay. I think this might be a good case for that CSS column layout. I've chucked the description in there as well. CSS grid layout. Sorry, I'm kind of new to the CSS grid thing, but I think this might be a good use case for it. So here's where I'm up to, right? So let's move that back out of there. So let's put in a bunch of space here, just to indicate what I'm trying to solve. So this is just going to be 300 pixels of nothing, right? Okay, so the orange, let me zoom in a bit. The orange is a Flexbox container that switches between column and grid, right? The image doesn't change size, but that doesn't matter for now. So it'd be like column, great, grid, great. So now what I really want, I think from the sketch file, is for the event details to start tucking underneath the event. Even when this starts getting really long. And what I actually want to do is expand this out. So let's say this is 650. Okay, so at this point here, because this could have stuff in it, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but it could just have stuff in it. But I want the description to have risen up to here. But I don't think Flexbox gives me that unless I like float this or do something weird. But I think CSS Grid does. Should we go on a CSS Grid adventure together? Do you know this? Do you know the CSS Grid API? Anybody? Like, is this CSS Grid layout? Right, I want this one and this one. Okay. They have one of those big pictures that they always have. Ah, here we go. Great. Okay, cool. CSS Grid. We can figure it out from here. Can we? Can we? And is this what I'm looking for? Yes, you just define the rows and columns. Okay, great. That is... That is what I... Is this... Yeah, that is sort of what I want. Can you do like, you know, like a masonry layout in CSS Grid? Yes, because there's a link here that says I can. This, okay, cool. Oh wow, they actually have, they've called it masonry in the spec. I was sort of wondering if you could define a bunch of columns and then just have your content arbitrarily flow like this, like on Pinterest, I guess. Wow, okay. Imagine writing a JavaScript library that's so influential, they name the... When they finally build it into the spec, they just name it after the thing you built. That's pretty cool. It's going to say 4 columns per row. Okay, so... So what we want is we want this on mobile devices. So 1, 2, 3. We then want 1, 2, and then 3 to tuck up underneath here. So it's simply that we're defining 2 columns, and that this column, I can't remember any of the wording. It's like it's like a whole terminology. Grid area, that grid area, grid track. Only switches to this right-hand side at a certain viewport. This one here goes back onto this side. Let's give it a try. Give it a try. Let's give it a try. Because we've hardly got a lot on the page at the moment. So actually this is not one. Okay, on the right hand side. Okay, great. So the cover can stay, the content can stay. So let's rename this one as Flexbox. Well, let's rename all of these as Flexbox. These all go away. Okay, so we can switch back if we want. We can just put them all as Flexbox. So then we can take this one. And then I don't know this. We're going to have to actually jump back and forth between the docs all the time because I actually don't know this API well at all. So let's do introduction, basics, display grid. Okay, display grid. And we're going to give it an outline. We're back to basics. It's one of my favorite things. Like, you just like genuinely, even if you've been coding for a long time, there's no difference between you and someone that started doing it yesterday when you're back at a new API. It's like, yep, no idea what's about to happen. All right, so now we've got a red box around some stuff, hopefully. Great, I think that's my first table layout. Okay, so within a table layout, we want 2 rows, but we want 1 row on, oh, get rid of all this. We want 1 row item. Okay, so they're grid items, but they're grid items by default, right? Okay, so we have to generates an inline level grid. I have no idea. Okay, so grid template columns. I want 2 columns. I think I was saying rows before. I think I want 2 columns. Defines the columns and rows of the grid with a space separated list of values. The values represent the track size, and the space between them represents the grid line. Okay, so we want here this, right? We just want 2 equal columns for now. And we don't. Oh, we do know how many columns we want, because we want one for the image, 1 for the description. That's 2 across. And then we just want the right-hand column to breach across those, to merge across those. Okay, so maybe we want the same thing for grid template rows. This is fun. I'm learning stuff. Okay, and I think, like, is this the same? We're having a 2x2 grid, right? That's what I think I've created there, a 2x2 grid. So if I refresh, can I see the cells in the grid? No. But I've got 1, 2. So this is cool. Things are happening in here. So now what happens if I pull this up into here to be 3? That's 1, 2, and then 3. Right, well that's better because that has wrapped, but they're all equal now. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I want 1 and 2 to just sort of, I want this cell. So 1, let's take it. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1 and 3 to just merge. I don't want them to worry about the height of 2, but can I do that by telling 2 to do this grid row start for this one. And then what's the actual... Well, let's name these then. So let's call them... What do you do? Give them... First lines. This one can be left. I'm guessing this is like the one that everyone does when they're learning this API. Okay, so left, right, top, and bottom. And so for event details, I want it to start at top. And end at bottom. I don't think I think that's not panned out well. I mean, it's done a thing, but I've messed that up. Okay, grid template columns first. One, two, three. Okay, that one's made 5. So first, line 2, line 3. Row 1 start. Yeah, whenever row 1 start. Top. Oh. Do I then have to? Oh, so I do also have to specify grid column start right. Oh, okay, cool. That's still not going all the way to the bottom. Can I make this 3? Hey! That's cool. We got that. And so now, if I collapse it down, I want all of that to go away. Oh, amazing to see you. Have a wonderful day. And well done on your article. Well done on your blog post. It looks amazing on doing 3D stuff. And you'll probably be a cryptocurrency millionaire by the time we speak again. All right, super happy this worked. More by luck than judgment. Right, let's undo that then, because we only want that to happen here. So all of this, all of this. We just want this one. And details one, and then this one here. Do you keep it as grid and shift the grid for performance, or do you just 1, 2, 3? They would be in the right order to not have anything on the desktop, I guess. Although I guess you get the spaces that you can adjust. Let's just pop this in here, and that's the one that goes around. So let's see what happens now. Right, so now this, can we just finally solve that bloody image thing? This got some sort of... So it's got some sort of CSS properties already in it. It's got margins, the image, then cool. Okay, great. Right, so we have image, blurb. Remember, we added all this fake space just to prove that we had the start. So this is all of the event information, blah, 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 when it is, all of that stuff. Then the description. Great. Then when we go past a certain viewport size, boom, CSS grid happens. All of our information on the right-hand side. This thing here. So why, oops. Okay, so why this height? what is setting the height of this thing? Is it the height set by, is that just half of the height of the other thing? Is that just 50%? So if we were to say template rows top, what's the opposite of that? Can you just do auto? Yes. Okay, amazing. That's what we want. And so then we can just, okay, great. That's exactly what we were looking for. So now if we take that stupid spacer out that we added, that we don't need. Great. So now it doesn't matter. And we can also start, where am I going with this? It doesn't matter how much content is on this right-hand side. This description will always come up underneath here. And presumably we could get to a world where if we got wide enough, could we start to introduce a new, like at this full width size, we could say, oh, well, it's so wide now. We could actually have this come back around and represent, go all the way across. And the answer would be yes, because you could just add, you're sort of adding a new grid item in CSS. You don't need the div. There's no div to be there. Oh, you would need a div to be there. No, you wouldn't. You would just define it and then say that the grid start and grid end on that element is that. And then you don't care. This would just be blank space. So you could have like 1 here, 2 down the right-hand side, and then this description could go all the way along the bottom, and there would just be blank space in between. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. And what was the thing about adding like gutters to this? How do you do that? So grid area, we've already done. Oops. Oh, whoops. Yeah, so you get an empty. That's sort of what I was looking for. I said footer would be that part there. Template column gap. Here we go. So column gap. And gutters are only created between column rows, not on the outer edges. That's great. So then here you could have, what's column gap on the grid parent? That could be like a percentage, but I'm just gonna chuck in a pixel value for now. Yeah, so we get our padding here, but not here. Ah, really like this. This just solves so many problems. So that could be potentially... Yeah, really good. Really good. Okay, that's great. So we're building out this. And so this just is just a fancy version of this. And so if we... Okay, so we're still... I think we could sort at the point where we need to work out what to do with that grey part, but I don't think it matters too much. Coming to here. So that CSS table layout, grid, sorry, would also be great here. So you could have like your order summary and then mess around with it, how you laid them out on mobile devices. I'm just realizing we're clocking in a pretty long stream, and we've kind of built out a little bit of the design. Yeah, I think I might call it a day, but that's really good. So what do we cover? We looked at building out this kind of cover area here. How we looked at doing that is pretty straightforward. We just built that out as an element on its own, and then we looked at we just used a negative margin just to pull up a white rectangle. Took a little look into primer and like not having access to the Sass variables, which we may or may not want to do the extra legwork. We then got this working and then dived into the CSS grid API to get this working in a cool way where this will always flow correctly. And it looks really rough, but it's gonna look like that, which I think is a little bit neater. And we'll polish this up and make it nice and have all of the fun stuff that it should have on. But I think that's pretty cool looking, rough and cool and super cool. But that is it for me this week. It's just lovely to chat about cryptocurrencies and Heroku and loads of other fun stuff. I did mention last week that I had spoken to Sam about potentially doing another pairing session, which we will try and do, but I've been a bit busy away from the stream. Have wonderful weeks, everybody, and I'll see you next Sunday, 10:30 a.m. UK time for another Sunday Club. Have a lovely week.